First job, setting your roof out, is to fit these eaves protection trays. Now what these are designed to do is to stop the sag of your felt in between your rafters. They go onto the rafter like that first. Let me just come out a little bit so you can see. They go onto the rafter like that first, and they fix on, just got a couple of nails into each rafter. The felt goes onto the top of that, and then, as you can see, this bit then drops down. If I just push this over a little bit, that bit then drops down. Ooh, come on, Richard. And then sits into your, not the centre of your gutter, but if I just show you up here, because we did it on the existing house as well, what happens is these go like that lot. They sit in your gutter like that, and it sort of protects your, protects your eaves there, stops any sagging your felt. That's what you do. I mean, we could have cut that felt a little bit shorter, but it's not a problem. If it does sort of rot away, which that stuff generally doesn't, that protects it. So we put that on first, all the way across, and then you can start setting out your first row of felt. The thing I've got to do first is, because it's then difficult to measure from here to get my first lath again. If you remember, I set it out, which was 324mm. I'll make sure I reference that line before I put my felt on, so I know how far up from the top of the eaves protector tray it is to there, just so I can reference back again, so I get a good line, so I don't start cocking up my all my spacing on my lath and ultimately start cocking up where it is over there. They're all fitted, other than the two end ones, which I'm leaving out so Adam can put the tile kneelers on, and then I can just overlap it, because it's a minimum 150mm, but some of these are wider than 150, just to make sure I get on the end on a rafter. That one there, for example, I'll come over to that one to there, and I can put a screw in there and that'll support it. Don't forget, it's going to be under the felt and everything anyway, so that's fine. Or I could push it on, in fact I'll push it underneath actually and screw it, and that'll support that overhang there. That's what I'll do. What I did do is I pulled the line, I marked my chalk line that you seen me do in the last episode to set these out, which was the top of my first lath. And what I've done now is so I can reference it again once the felt goes on, because like I say, it is difficult to then reference the end of your rafter because it's not covered up. So all I've done is I've measured 200mm down from there to there, so I know felt goes on, I can fill that with my tape measure. I can just come up 200mm, a couple of places, pull a string line on top of my felt, because the felt is white. Take the blue chalk really well, and then I can set my first lath. And we already know that from the top of that lath then to the top of that lath up there is 3860, so that's it, that's all good. All I can do now is I can actually put a piece of felt on now, but what I'll probably do is I'll probably allow it long enough to go over there, likewise over that end, and then roll it back a little bit, and then bring it back to probably about here. So it's all here, so it's not in Adam's way, so we can get on in and there, and you can put bricks down the side of there. And then I'll just clamp it with a bit of lath. I shan't go through it with any screw or anything, just clamp it with a bit of lath for now. And at least it sort of starts me off and adds some more protection to the tops of these cavities as well. Don't let them getting too soaked. Make it easy for yourself, especially in this wind. That felt now is pre-taped as well, I've just noticed, which is really good. So that means when you overlap it, you can stick it as well as lath it. Anyway, going back on track. So it's a metre. What I want to do now is I shall measure a metre from about there, that point here, up the rafter, and then pull a string line at a metre. Now, you haven't got to do that, but it just looks tidier when it's all in line and all the writing's the right way up and everything else. Yeah, it's a bit of OCD, but it doesn't hurt, does it? So I shall do that first. I shall get a measurement up there first, mark a metre, pull a string line, and then it gives me somewhere to run my felt to. Do that first. Right, we normally like to set the car up and show you what we're doing stage by stage, but it's just too windy. But all I'm doing to help myself is I'm working 2 bays at a time. I put a piece of lath underneath it, and I can roll it on the eaves protector and the lath, roll it back, put a staple in bit by bit, and keep working my way across. Then what I'll do is in a minute, I think, is I've set another lath on top just to hold the joint. All I've done this end, where I don't want to cover it in so Adam can get in and out, is I've just put a piece of timber, and I might move it to the next bay actually, so it's a bit wider. I've just rolled it up, but rolled it underneath itself so it doesn't hold the water, and then just put a screw into the rafter just to clamp it. I should put another one at the bottom as well to clamp that, so it's not damaging the felt at all. And then when we're ready, I can take the screws out, unravel it and drop it over to there. Do the same at that end, but it just means we can try and keep the job moving while we're waiting for the brickwork to be sorted out. So that's why I'm doing that. So my apologies for not sort of showing like we normally do and setting the camera up and what have you, but it's just far too windy. The footage is rubbish, the sound quality is rubbish, and the camera keeps blowing over. Right, so I'll get on with this and I'll show you in a minute how far I've got. That's the first one on, stapled, and then the bottom lath. That one is fixed every so often, just for now. Shan't fix it all the way, but that's just the lath that just kicks up the bottom of the tile. That's all, just to keep it flat. That's all that's there for. So that's right at the bottom of the what is the rafter on top of these protection. So what I'll do now is, as I've already mentioned, I know it's 200mm now, and I can feel the top of my eave protector, and I'll come up 200mm, pull a string line, and then a chalk line, and that's where my next lath will go. It's proving difficult and ineffective to use a chalk line, so I measured every so often 200mm off the top of this, and I'll put that into a string line as well, so that's level and flat and straight, whatever else you want to call it. And then I used this profile again. So that's one of the bonuses of working with the brickie. You get profiles to use, no other benefits at all, but don't add them. Anyway, so I've used the profile then, and I've just, like I did before, I've used a couple of marks. I'll drop the profile on the top to make sure that this is perfectly flat. So if I put this on here now, I'll show you that, so it's perfect all the way across the top of the profile, which means it's straight and it's not sort of going up and down. That's what I've done. That's my first one. All I'm going to do now, because it's about time to go now, losing the light a little bit, I'm going to put this on here, just with a couple of screws in the overlap. So the screw holes, once I take that off, it'll be covered by the next piece of felt anyway, so I'm not too bothered about where I put the screws there. What I've done here, because Adam's going to take these off to do the kneeler, but I was a bit dubious about leaving it unscrewed because of the wind, but I've put a couple of screws in, and that'll go back in the same place anyway, so the screw holes will be covered again once it's nailed, so I'm happy with that as well. So I'll put this top lath on, and then we'll leave it there, I think. Good morning. A bit fresh this morning. We came on Saturday, did some brickwork, so you would have seen that in the last video. If you haven't, this is the video that you're after on the screen now. So I'll turn you around, show you where we are and what we're going to start with today. Brickwork we did on Saturday is all covered up over there. We've done the block work on that side, and tomorrow we'll complete the brickwork, but you would have already seen the finished article in the video I've just posted you to, just before this. So all I can do today now, because he's done that, I can take this plastic off, I can pull this felt all the way over to the far side where the barge board's going. I could more than likely fit the barge board once I've structured in the bottom of that. And then we can do all the felt all the way across, most of the lath, set the laths out as per the gauge that we've already worked out in the previous episode to this, regarding the roof. So we can go all the way up to the top, lath all the way across, and then what I'll do then is, like I did here, I'll just put some temporary laths on screws, so when we come to the brickwork or finish the brickwork, I can take them off. Ad can put his line up from top to bottom to get his cuts in all nice and tidy, and then we can carry on, and when he's done that I can fix them in place. But what I will do is, what I started to do was I started to number them like that. Number 2, and I know that that one is number 2, so I know it's cut to length, so I don't start wasting lath. I'll uncover that. I'll get the this lath off here, which was there just to stop the felt coming off, and I'll start felting the roofing. Pull the chalk line Marked up 321 mil. 321 mil at that end, off the end of this last lath. Pull the string line, and then I can work to that now to make it nice and straight. What I did do, however, which I don't like to do normally, is put loads of staples in the felt. So what I have done is, well, I know where the top of the lath is now, so that one for example, that staple there is underneath the lath. So what I've done is I've pulled the felt tight up the rafter and put a staple in. That one there, what I know is going to be under the lath, all the way across. Every so often put one in, then put a mark this end, so I know this is flat. Then I've then made sure there's no moisture on here, so because it'll damage your chalk line, well, damage it, it'll make soaking wet, be no good for you. And then I've just pulled one all the way through. So all I'll simply do now, you get my lath, set it on your line, like so, and then nail away. Now what I will say is, some people cut a piece of lath like that, put it in there, and then go, you know, and then work to that. But what I will say is, even though this blue stuff is meant to be regularised for this exact reason, the way it's all standard and there's no differences, there is a little tiny bit in that's flat at the top, and there's a tiny bit there, about a mil or so. Now I know it's only a mil or so, but that's not the point, is it? It's got to be nice and tidy, nice and flat. So I happily just get my tape measure, I'll get this, I'll sit it on top of there like that, after this one, sorry, because I'll work to the string line for now. Then on the next one, I'll put my tape on, 321 mil, work my way along, off I go. That's what I do. Other people don't, but that's what I do. All I've done is I've put my first 2 rows on. So that one there is the one that will hang over the gutter, and that one is my first gauged 321 mil. If you can't remember from a couple of videos ago how I set this out, this is the video you're looking for, which explains exactly how I ascertain that from top of that lath to top of that lath is 321 mil, and that's all on there for you to have a look at. Right, the wind's getting up a little bit now, so what I'm going to try and do is try and smash through this as quick as I can. I'm going to start from this end, pull my felt, tack it all on, and then lath as I go. So that is all done then. So what I'm going to do, I think, just as the sun goes down, just set out my tiles. Now, you can do it one of 2 ways. You can either just go from one end, and it is what it is at that end. You can try and take into consideration veloxes and things, but because I've got 3, I've eliminated that one because I can't. I'm not going to get gauge in terms of or rows or whatever in line with it. I'm not. It's not going to work. But what I can do, you can either work from one end and end up where you end up, or you can start from the centre, like it would with just come back a bit, like it would do with normal wall tiling or floor tiling. You go in the centre of your room, or in this case the roof, work that way with tiles, work this way with tiles, and see if you get even cuts either side. What you don't want to happen is end up with a bit of a epoxy cut like that, or that's what you don't want. So that's what I'm trying to eliminate. So I think I'll find the centre of my roof, I'll work out where I want to start my tile. Now I think the dry verge system is about 40 mil, I think. I'm just going to quickly check that because I can't remember. And then I'll work my tile out from here where I need to be, and I can start my tile, and then I can work out to try and make sure I don't get a horrible cut at either end or at one end. I suppose ultimately, if I'm going to have a crap cut, I want it that end out the way, but I'd rather not do that anyway. So right, I'll work that out and say, just to see the sun's going down. Lovely. Look at that, lovely. Well, Carlsberg did roof spans. That's bang on, that is. Right to my tile there. That's roughly where my overhang is for my dry verge system, same as you've got up there. On that one you can't see in the sunlight. I've got overhang over there. I've started with a full tile, and that's how it's worked. I've only done it on that row because I can't start with a full tile where the scaffold pole is. Right then, time to finish the day. It's all been quite good, I think. I've only had a little bit of a flurry of rain, which was okay, but got the roof done, got myself watertight, got some tiles up, got the bricks up ready for tomorrow, got the gauging ready on my tiles so I can go at it tomorrow. So I'll sort myself some nails out tonight that I've got in the workshop and be able to crack on. Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening, whenever you're watching this video. Very fresh this morning, but beautiful day. I like this weather. This is my favourite to work in. A little bit fresh, but lovely and sunny and dry, so your tools don't get wet. Okay then, enough about the weather. Next job, what I'm going to do, I've loaded out the scaffold, which I'll turn around and show you in a minute, ready for my tiles, and I've gauged my tiles as you've already seen. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start setting out the left-hand side of my roof as I look at it, up from the garden, which is the barge board end. Now, if I spin you around and show you this, what we've got for this site is we've got the 10mm capping board, because it doesn't need to be jumbo board because it's going onto a timber, so there's no need for the extra expense on that. It is from the same company, so it is the same colour. So I go underneath here, and then we'll use the dry verge, which Adam's actually just fetched. Cut these off, put the dry verge against it, over the top of the tile, and there we go. So even though you've seen me set these out, and it was full tiles, I'll find out what the dimension is now, because there's always a dimension you have to cut your lath off to suit the inside dimension of the dry verge that goes on the end of your tiles. And you cut your lath off, and that's where you screw into then. So once I've got that, if I've got to tweak this over a toucher, then that's what I'll do. But I'll be more inclined to tweak that end and cut that end off, because it's a lot easier to cut up that end. So, right, let's get on with that then. Apologies for the crap footage on that, but I can't really show you any better. And maybe when the scaffold comes down, I can show you up the side of the house, but it's a bit difficult. But all we've done now as well is, turn you around again, all these laths now have been cut off 25mm, which is, when you use these things, there's a dimension which is from that portion there. So in this bit here is about 25mm. So all you do, you cut your 25mm off, and then these sit on top of your tile, and then the 25mm allows that bottom bit, this bit, that bit there, to sit against your barge board. I will film it. It'll be easy to show you on the other side, so I'll just go through what we're going to do. And then you just nail them into your laths like that, and these clip onto your tile, and that's how you do that. And that finishes that off, and that'll cover, like you can sort of see there, it sits against your barge, look like that. And off you go, looks nice. And then they all clip together, one per tile, all the way up. But like I said, I'll show you that more over that side, won't we, Ad?
Yeah.
When we've done the brickwork, but we haven't done it yet. We thought it was going to happen, but it's too cold today.
Too cold.
Anyway, plenty to do. So we're going to put these row of tiles in now, nail all these down here, which I said the first course, put these dry verge on, and then we're going to have a look at that, Ad, do you think? That window?
I think so, mate, yeah.
We may have a look at that window, but I'm not going to show you that. Ad can show you that in his video.
Nice.
And it might have been before this. We don't know. We'll see. Surprise! Bit of progress then. So we've got 2 rows and all the way across, just to make sure this is all nice and square. What I didn't want to do is go row by row and end up with it creeping like that, because the problem with these tiles is, because it sits in the groove, it tends to keep you parallel. So if you get a couple out of parallel, it kicks the whole lot out. And then what you end up with is you end up with them not zigzagging all the way across, which is rubbish. So that's all on. We've worked our way across then. We're going to set this platform up now, and then that's the last you'll see of in this video of this. This will be in another episode filmed by the man down there. Hello. So we're going to take that window out, take that out, but I'm saying no more. So we've done as much as we can now. These tiles are in full tiles. We've got cuts to go onto here to go into the velux. We've got cuts to go underneath there to go into the velux. Likewise there, likewise there, likewise there. This is all racked back, ready for the brickwork. And again, we'll leave this now because we need to have our way to walk up there and a walk across to the platform that's going to be when we start working on that. You would have seen from the last episode that all the brickwork's done. All the window is blocked in, and the brickwork has been done around the what will be the new window, but for now it's just insulated in. First job today then, I'm going to cut out the mortar joint all the way across for the lead, because I don't want to do it when the tile's wrong, because it makes a mess. Once I've done that, that's prepared for the lead, I can then do as many tiles as I can. What I'm thinking, I'm going to go up to and including the last 2 rows of tiles all the way across, all the way down here. I can then remove this insulation, put the eaves protectors on, and then I can then get up and down at that point, so we can do the downpipe, so we can get on there to put the lead in and set that ready. Put the last tiles on, working from there, putting the lead in as we go, because we don't want to be putting any more than 1.5 metres in at a time. We'll then show you, at the same time, we'll be showing you the ventilation system we've got, which means that felt gets lapped over the last lath as it is now. So I've got to take them and put that underneath there. And then this ventilation sits on top of the tiles, allows a 5mm gap. So in effect what it does, it gives a 5mm standoff from these tiles. And then you go, allows ventilation then up and at the back of the felt. So there'll be a bit of a gap at the back of the felt. But I'll show you that. That'll be coming up soon this episode. So stay tuned and I'll show you exactly how that goes on. So I'm not going to film this. I'm going to crack on and get this done. And then I'll show you in a bit what we're going to do after that. All my group's cut then, all the way along. All the way along there, all the way along there. And then I've blown all the dust off the roof. And any extra, I've then got the hose, just to give it a bit of a wash off. Well, there we have it for now. All you will see, well you probably won't see on the camera actually, these couple of tiles are not quite sitting right because there's no tile under this one, so it's kicking up a little bit, so it's thrown the tiles as it comes this way. But when I put my tile above the Velux there, it'll pick it back up and it'll all be good. But that's worked out well. Like I say, this is why you should always make sure that you're going in nice and square, because all these, as I've even though I put these on first, as I've come across, they've all dropped in. And if you hadn't made sure they were square and they were a bit on the skew, they wouldn't interlock across the top. Now I know this isn't the ideal scenario. You know, you'd start from the bottom, you'd start from this end because you can drop the tile on top rather than me having to start from that end and hook the tile underneath every time. But you have to do what you have to do sometimes. And in this instance, this is what we had to do. We've got other things that we've got to get on with, like that window, like this brickwork. So we just have to do things a bit backside arse first and all that. So there you go, that's what we have to do. So depending where you go, we are using Manthorpe Smart Verge. They come in boxes of 10. If you're a bit unsure, there's a bit of a QR code on there for you to have a look what you're doing and how to fit them and what have you. But the only thing you need to know, importantly, is there is a right and a left hand. Now, I always thought that when you looked up at the gable like that, left hand side as it goes up was left, right hand side was this way, but it's not. You identify which ones you need because you could need different numbers like we had to on the front. We needed so many of this elevation, so many other elevation, and they are handed. So when you look up at your roof, so if I just come back a little bit, when you look at your roof like this, up the roof like that, that is left hand, that is right hand. Not when you look at a gable, left hand, right hand. So there we go. So what I'm fitting now is the right hand verge. We've done the left hand, which I couldn't show you very much of. So now what I'll do is show you how to do these. Now, if I just put you back on the stand and I can show you how I set my laths out first, because that's the first thing you need to do. Right, fitting dry verge, Mendip tiles. Now, if you go on the internet and look up fitting smart verge, the only videos you're going to get, because I have just checked, is a flat tile. Now, they don't work very well with flat tiles, and I'll show you why in a minute. So before we carry on any further, first thing you need to do before you put your tiles on when you're setting out, like I've just done cutting my tiles off, we need to work out how far your laths need to be overhanging your barge or your brickwork, whichever the case may be. Now in this instance, all I did was I got a piece of lath wherever I put that, and I just thought that looks about 25mm, so I put it in there, and it was. That part there, the narrow part, is a bit that fixes against your brickwork, and the wider part is a bit that goes on the top. So I checked that and it was about right. So then what I did was I just put that on my brickwork once I'd finished it like that, and I cut all these off to suit. Now I know this is nice and flat because Ad's done it, but if it's an existing that doesn't look the best, you could always pull a string line from top to bottom at your measurement, 25mm in this instance, and then cut them off to suit. But the only thing you have to be aware of then is if the brickwork's running in out like that, you'll be able to see these doing exactly the same, because they do follow the brickwork when you nail them to the laths. So it may be that you have to just succumb to the fact that you are going to have a couple of gaps. You will see, or you might not see, I've trimmed that. That's what it normally looks like, and that's what I've done to mine. Now, I have requested a callback for Manthorpe last time, and then I never got one. Because I wanted to know what you're expected to do when you're fitting dry verge onto this type of tile, which is quite a deep sort of tile, if you like. Can't think of any other word to explain it. Deep profile, if you like. So what happens is, and you'll see I've already got my tiles on, so you could do these individually. Put this on one tile, put the tile on top of that, but I like to do it this way. What happens is you put the tile on there like that, and that goes underneath the tile like that, up nice and tight. That part fits against the end of your tile, and then you nail it into your lath. But if you look at that, because that is dropping into there, it's trying to follow the contour of the tile, and there's no way of stopping that unless you start smashing the bottom off, or cutting the bottom off your tile, which is the part that stops the water drive, that part there that drops into this concave bit. So all I do is, rightly or wrongly, someone can happily comment and tell me what they do. So I just put that on there like that, and all I make sure I do is this is up tight, and then I mark that tight to the tile like that. So when you nail it, of course it'll sit up now and it'll sit perfect, and when this one goes on, that part will then cover that up there. If you're really bothered about it, and I probably will be, even though it won't have any kind of impact at all on how these perform in terms of damp or whatever you want to do, you can always put a slight bit of clear silicone just in there, or some not silicone, like a resin based adhesive. We use stick saw, especially when we come to put the tile cuts on. You can get it in clear. It's designed to use in this kind of impact in heavy water. Little tiny bit on there, just silly, but it won't make a difference because, as you can see, it's overhanging the tile 1.5 inches, so it's not a problem. So all you do, you get your first one on like that, identify where your lath is, and I use, rather than screws, because they don't, these clout nails, I use 1.5 inch clout nails. Screws tend to split the lath, I think anyway, so I just use 2 clout nails per one. So you identify your lath like that, and then knock it in nice and tight. Now, what happens now is that narrow part is now sitting tight against the brickwork all the way up. That'd be lovely. And as you can see, there's a little bit of bounce. Now, there's a couple of things you can do. You can either, because there's a bit of a groove in there like that on your bottom one, what I've done in the past is I've elongated that slightly, and I've clipped that over the top of my stop end on my gutter, and that holds it in. However, what I quite like to do is, because we're using black especially here for the fascia, I'll get a nice black poly pin, I identify the bottom lath, and then I just put a poly pin in there. Nice black poly pin, looks nice and tidy. Okay, so I'm not going to show you all of them, but I'll show you one just to clip it together. Again, there's a little bit of a groove in there which clips onto the bottom of there to stop it flapping about. But what you need to do is put the bottom on first into the groove, keep it as close down to this way as you can, and then nice and carefully clip it in there, and it clips into that one. Now, I say pull it all the way down because it's a narrower part there. If you do it too far up, especially when it's cold like it is now, you can split these and you can break all the bottom off. All you do then is you just get this one, under the tile like that. Again, I've got to cut that one off again, remember, just showing you how to do it. You've got to cut that one again, and then you just move this up like that against the bottom of your tile. Like I say, look, as you can see, I'll show you in a minute a bit closer. You can't really see it anywhere where you cut it, but I'll just do that there. I'll cut that with a pair of my tin snips I've got, drop it on so they sit nice and flat, and you do that all the way up. Bit of a pain in the arse because it's quicker when it's a flat tile. You have to cut these individually, but it is what it is. If you were high up, you'd have to pattern cut one, cut them, and then off you go. But you'd be on scaffold like I am anyway. So there we are, that's what I'll do. I'll cut these all the way up, nail them all the way in, and then I'll show you the end result in a minute. So there we have it, other than the top two, which I'm going to take those tiles back off anyway, so I can get down as I always said, across there. any detriment at all, just a pain you cut. Okay, if you come round there you can sort of see I've cut it. You can see up there, you just take care when you're doing it. And you can't see it anyway. But it just stops it from kicking over and just looking absolutely rubbish. Stops it picking the tile up. And I can't see any other way of doing it. I mean, help me out if you can. If you started cutting that off there to sit it flat instead of cutting this, you're going to expose all that and you're going to have no, don't like it. So all these are on nice and straight. Just take care when you're cutting your laths off and cutting your tiles like I did. And then what you get is you get a finish like that, which is all tight to the brickwork, and it helps the fact the brickwork's nice and flat as well. All that there. So identify your lath, put your two clamp nails in. So I'll leave these two off now, but that's done. I've got two left in my bag, they're ready to go. What you generally do with the top one is you put that one on there like that one goes on there, and then at the top you're a little bit short, you're going to end up coming to about there. But when you put your lead on, your lead comes out and you wrap your lead over the top anyway, so you can't see it, and that seals it in nice and tidy. So I've already got my lead groove already in. I don't know how much more we're going to get in this episode, but what I might try and do is I might try and fit in the fascia and soffit into this video as well, to tie all the roofing elements into it. But the problem we've got is because the scaffold's still up, if I spin you around now you can see it's a little bit tight. It's doable, but a little bit tight. Under there, look, that's all my fascia and soffit already structured in, as I've already shown you before in previous videos. And what I could do, we could flip this board, and we could get it from underneath, easy. But there isn't any need to struggle, so we probably won't do that. However, if you've got a lovely day like today, rather than working inside, we might come out and do it. But because we've only got these last few tiles to go on behind me and the lead work, it may be that we get the lead work done, get the tiles on, get the last two dry verge on, and then drop the scaffold, because we'll be good to go then. So that's what we will do. But if this is the end of the episode, thank you for watching.